The plague of the mind. History's strangest outbreaks no one can explain. Imagine this. A whole town drifting into the night. Their eyes open, but their minds somewhere else. The cobblestones of a medieval town under a moonlit sky. The streets should be empty, but they are not. Dozens of villagers drift into the night. Their eyes are open but glassy. Their bodies move stiffly, slowly, as though guided by an invisible hand. Some stumble, some collapse. But most continue to walk, until dawn. Parents follow their children, calling their names, but the sleepers do not answer. Priests declare it a curse. Healers whisper of poisoned bread. Others say the heavens themselves are pulling souls from their beds. To the people who lived it, it was a plague. But centuries later, call it something else. Mass psychogenic illness. Welcome back to Whispered Chronicles, echoes of forgotten lore. Tonight, we descend into the forgotten stories of the sleepwalking plague and the long, unsettling history of mass hysteria that still haunts humanity. Present-day mystery. We'd like to think these things belong to the past, but the truth is, they still happen. In September of this year, Terminal 4 at Heathrow Airport fell into sudden chaos. Passengers fainted, clutching their chests. Others swayed with nausea, eyes wide in panic. Emergency crews rushed in, hazmat suits sweeping the air. But when the tests were finished, nothing. No gas, no poison, nothing. What then had poisoned them? Experts began to ask. Was it something in the air or something in the mind? Scientists have a term for this: mass psychogenic illness. A chain reaction of symptoms triggered not by plague, but by fear itself. And once you see it in the present, you begin to notice its fingerprints scattered all across history. Defining the phenomenon, the idea of mass hysteria is not new. It is as old as recorded history. And across time, the symptoms return again and again. Laughter, trances, fits, dances. Each outbreak leaving behind more questions than answers. The Tanzanian laughing epidemic. In 1962, at a girls' boarding school in Kashasha, Tanzania, 3 students began laughing. The laughter spread like fire. Dozens of girls collapsed in hysterics and teachers could not stop it. The school closed, but the illness followed the children into their villages. Over the months that followed, more than 1,000 people were struck. Scientists found no virus, no poison. Instead, psychologists point to stress. Tanzania had just broken from colonial rule. The children lived in strict, pressure-filled conditions. Their laughter may have been a release. Chain reaction of bodies, purging fear, a plague with no germ. But laughter was not the only plague of the body. In Europe centuries earlier, the music never stopped. The dancing plague of Strasbourg. For centuries earlier, in the summer of 1518, a woman named Frau Trophia walked into the streets of Strasbourg, began to dance. For 6 days, she did not stop. Soon dozens joined her, then hundreds. Witnesses say they danced until their feet bled, until they collapsed, some until they died. Why did they dance? One theory is ergot, a toxic fungus that grows on rye bread known to cause visions and spasms. Others believe famine and despair cracked the minds of the townsfolk, unleashing hysteria. Perhaps both. But to the people of Strasbourg there was no doubt. This was a curse, punishment sent by heaven, or possession by a dancing spirit. They danced. They danced. They danced. And no one could make them stop. The Salem witch trials. And in Salem, Massachusetts, 1692, the same shadow returned. Young girls fell into convulsions. They screamed, they cried out names, they claimed to see specters in the night. Their fits became the spark that ignited witch trials. 20 innocents were executed. Modern historians suspect ergot poisoning again, contaminated bread warping the mind. Others believe it was suggestion, repression, and fear feeding on itself. In a society where Satan was thought to lurk in every shadow, was it poison? Was it panic? Or was it something far darker? Whatever the truth, proved how quickly belief can become fatal. Explanations offer comfort. Fungus, fear, stress. But for those who live through them, the answers never silenced the whispers. To them, these were not illnesses, they were curses. Prophecies in motion, proof that something unseen had taken hold of the human body. And perhaps they were not wrong. The sleepwalking plague. Among the strangest of these accounts is what chroniclers once called the sleepwalking plague. In fragments of medieval writing, we read of villagers who would rise at night, wandering silently through fields and streets, eyes open but minds absent. They did not respond when spoken to. They were not easily woken. Some traveled miles before collapsing at dawn. In the Rhineland, parents shared tales of kids getting out of bed in droves, wandering barefoot until their feet were bleeding. In France, pilgrims claimed entire groups would rise from their beds and march toward holy sites, unaware of what they were doing. Explanations varied. Some swore the moon was to blame, that its light pulled sleepers from their homes like a tide. Others said it was punishment for sin, the souls of the living called to wander as penance. Much later, scholars suggested that ergot fungus, yet again, may have poisoned their minds. Others argued for epilepsy, or simple folktale exaggeration. But the whispers are too consistent to ignore. Something was happening. And like the dancing plagues and the laughter epidemics, spread like wildfire. Again and again, scholars return to a single culprit. Ergot, toxic fungus that grows on damp rye. Ergot can cause convulsions, hallucinations, even the feeling of crawling insects beneath the skin. Entire communities once depended on rye bread to survive, and in years of wet harvests, the fungus thrived. To some historians, ergot is the thread connecting the dancing plagues of Europe to visions of Salem and countless other outbreaks. But the ergot theory is never a perfect fit. In some cases, the weather records do not support it. In others, the symptoms described don't match. And so ergot lingers as a possible answer, but never a certain one. Shadow of science chasing a shadow of mystery. But whether it was poison, illness, or imagination, what made these outbreaks unstoppable was belief. Belief strong enough to bend the body to its will. Belief, stress, and contagion. Why does the body betray itself this way? Modern psychologists say, stress is the spark. A single, unexplained symptom, magnified by fear, becomes a wave. In 1983, in the West Bank, nearly 1,000 schoolgirls fainted during what was first believed to be a gas attack. Panic spread, but no toxin was ever found. Doctors labeled it an epidemic of mass psychogenic illness. In the 2010s, a group of teenage girls in Leroy, New York, developed sudden uncontrollable tics and spasms. Some thought it was chemical contamination. Others blamed vaccines, but no clear cause was found. Eventually, doctors suggested it was mass hysteria, though not everyone accepted that answer. These cases echo the past, the sleepwalkers, the dancers, the laughing girls. Belief itself becomes the contagion, and once fear takes root, the body obeys. Tying to folklore and omens. Before medicine named it, folklore explained it. The villagers who sleepwalked were said to be possessed, their bodies moved by angels, demons, or wandering spirits. In some regions, parents left offerings to protect their children from night wanderers. Priests carried relics through the streets to break the curse. And because so many outbreaks followed famine, war, or pestilence, they were seen as omens. If children walked in their sleep, disaster was near. If the village danced, plague would soon follow. The sleepwalking plague was prophecy written into human flesh, a living omen that something terrible was about to descend. The truth is unsettling. If the mind can create illness, what else can it bring to life? What else might belief create? Ancient texts speak of homunculi, artificial beings formed from alchemy. Legends of clay golems shaped by ritual words. Stories of mechanical servants, animated by sacred breath. From hysteria to homunculi, from sleepwalkers to golems. The line is thin. And the next chapter in our journey asks a darker question. What happens when belief itself creates life? The next time fear grips a crowd. The next time whispers spread through the air and your heart begins to race. Ask yourself, is there truly danger in the room? Or has the plague of the mind already begun? Thank you for watching Whispered Chronicles, Echoes of Forgotten Lore. If you felt the chill of tonight's tale, remember, The past is never silent, it only waits to be heard. Until next time, stay curious, stay aware, and above all, stay safe.